Howdy again, it's Mr. Pete. Welcome back to the shop. This is episode number 77 of my This and That series, and boy do I have a lot to show you. Some of this stuff is kind of personal. We also have viewer appreciation gifts and a few other finds that I've made, and I hope some interesting things. So watch the whole thing and subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you like it. Alright, let's begin. Okay, you might have recalled that some time ago I was given not the holder but this tool. It's carbide and there was no extra inserts in it, so I think I mentioned that briefly. And then my good buddy out in California, Roger Taylor, I've mentioned him many times. He was a machine shop teacher when he was back in his prime. I think he's about as old as me now. Thank you, Roger, for all that you do for my channel. But all of a sudden, out of the clear blue sky, here comes a package. And it cost him over $10 to send it. And in the package is a complete selection of the inserts that I need. And he was wondering if they would fit. And yes, Roger, they fit perfectly. I've already used this tool several times. And it's real narrow. I think they call it a diamond point, so it allows you to get into tight spaces. Very recently, I received a package from South Carolina, and Eugene Jensen sent me 4 micrometers. Thank you ever so much, Eugene. Let's take a real quick look at them. Here's a very nice, even came in a starrett box, 2-inch starrett mic, unmarked. It's in pretty much perfect condition. Very nice tool. And here are several older micrometers, and this particular one here is, I got a review now. This is a Craftsman, but by the design here you will recognize it that is probably, not probably, this was made by Shear Tomiko. Very nice tools. Got the ratchet, the lock, etc. And I zeroed it out and it does work perfectly. And here's a 2-inch micrometer, also from Eugene, and this is a central. Now, I don't talk too much about centrals, but they really are good tools. I don't believe they probably made their own. It is not a Shear Tomiko, but it looks similar. And I have shown you from time to time ads years ago for central mics. They got that neat little figure. So they made a complete line of micrometers, measuring tools, and other things, and they were used primarily by auto mechanics. There he is again. And that's a digital micrometer. And last, and probably least, is this 1-inch starrett micrometer. You know, it's got the 10th scale vernier back here, it's got the lock, it's got the friction thimble, it's got the carbide anvils. Just one problem: it's stuck. I mean, it's stuck. Now, I've dealt with these before. My very first micrometer was stuck. By the way, never store a micrometer with the anvils closed like this. Usually the corrosion is down in here. And I have another one that I bought just the other day at an auction. It is stuck as well. So if there's any success, I will make I'm going to make a video on how to free these. And if it works, the video will be published. If it's a failure, of course, you'll never hear about it again. So there's some more micrometers. I got a million of them. Just a few days ago when I went to that wonderful, fantastic tool auction, remember I bought this? It's a Mitutoyo, and I always say shame on you, Mitutoyo, because they used a foam that absolutely disintegrates. That's all gone, but this is a better grade of foam. But I spent quite a bit of time cleaning this up. Remember how dirty it was? I don't mean down here, I mean up in here. That plastic had embedded itself, and I used acetone and it worked quite well. Now this won't come out, and do you know what this crescent shape is? Those are hot chips that burn their way into The plastic on this probably was sitting on the lathe and big blue chip hit that. Don't let those hit you on the lip or go up your nose or you will be crying. That will make a full-grown man cry. But anyway, the reason I'm showing you this is just a few minutes ago, I sent my wife down to Walmart to get me some black felt to line this. Well, they were out of it. Probably due to COVID, you know. So she goes over to the dollar store and she gets this craft and she comes back with, and I said, that's not felt, that's just black. You could make a blouse or a shirt out of that. So I'm a little disappointed. Again, I'm going to have to ground that woman. And she's just come off a grounding, I think, as you know, if you watched a recent video. One other important thing I wanted to tell you about that recent tool auction is I really screwed up twice. You know, it was a long day, it was cold, and it was wet, and I missed a few items that I would want to have bid on, but here's what happened. I went home, and then I'm editing the video, and I'm watching the video, and at some point in the video, I discovered that I walked right by an Emmert pattern maker's vise. Now that's a big 75-pound vise, antique, that was mounted on a bench. It's green in color, so watch, I'm going to show you a clip. Watch for that. I would love to have bid on that, and I did have one at one time, but I really don't need it. Maybe I'm just as well off, but I'm ashamed of myself for missing it because it was so obvious, and I'm sure that tool collector that was there probably bought it. But in addition to that, and I'll leave a little bit of that footage in there, there was a beautiful Kennedy box, 3 pieces, you know, from top to bottom. I did want to bid on that, but I forgot all about that, and after that lathe sold, I just went home to warm up. So look at this clip now and see if you can spot that Emmert vise.
Doing this.
Yeah. Yeah. And the funny part about it was Kendrick went out.
Yeah.
We were all sitting down at the other bar one night.
Very recently I went to a second-hand store and I bought this item, which is very unusual and will be in a future What Is It series. But I had an interesting experience there. So as I'm rooting around, first of all, I'll show you a short clippage of some great C-clamps that they had. I think they were Armstrong. There was a whole bunch of them, $6 each. I've got a million Armstrong and Protos. They're some of my favorites, so I let them lay. But then as I walk around here and I'm looking at some of this stuff, there is a monster that shows up in the background. He just scared the heck out of me. So that little really meaningless clip will be right now. I'm in a second-hand store. I'm just browsing around. So there's some old tools here. And then I came around the corner and that guy scared the heck out of me. I'm in an antique store, and there's a nice little selection of C-clamps here. Quality American-made Armstrong, $6 each. But I got a million clamps. Those are hard grave. When I was still in my natural prime teaching high school shop, I had this set of flashcards. And the purpose of these was, freshmen had no idea what the names of tools were, so I'd give them a tool test. This is before we even went in the shop. But in preparing them for the tool test, I used these flashcards, and I got rid of most of them that were woodworking at that time. There were probably twice this many. Still a few worthless ones. But boys, what is this? Because we're in the classroom. We don't have any tools. So there's a center punch, combination square, tin snips, keyhole saw, drill, and right on down the line. So these were very useful, and these had disappeared for a 20-year period around my house, and all of a sudden my wife says, can I throw these away? And no, I want to show those on YouTube. So there they are. Now some of you guys do not go to garage sales, I know that, and you hate them and all that, but let me show you just a little footage. This is just 3 or 4 days ago where I went to a really big garage sale. It wasn't really very good, but there were 2 tables of tools, and I bought these, 11 bucks worth, just what I need. And but there's some interesting things here. I'm going to show you details in a second after I show you this footage. Now the footage is basically just me kind of walking past some of the tables, and then I zero in on some of this stuff before I had purchased it. And so let's look at that footage, and as soon as it's over, we'll be back here on the bench. And I'm not going to show you all of this because most of these are for what is it. So that'll be a very cursory examination. Cut to the garage sale. Let's go to a garage sale.
Kind of like her, and then they have one that is got the palest white milky skin.
Even though I am a sucker for wrenches and garage sales, and I got thousands of wrenches, I just had to get these. I particularly, $1 a piece, I particularly like the long pattern. For instance, this is a 3/8, but it's a lot longer than you'd usually see, and it's an Armstrong. Love those Armstrongs. A Wright are very good tools as well. There's another Armstrong, Armalloy, and a, what was this? Another Armstrong, long pattern. But here's the really interesting one that you're going to see, or I'm going to show you actually. It's a 7/16 combination wrench, and it says IBM on it. Had to have that. And that man had been an IBM repairman, so I got these tools. Each one is marked IBM. Now I know that this is a Starrett, let's face it. That is a Starrett. Made by Starrett, under contract or whatever, private label. These, I won't talk, they're IBM, but they will be shown in, what is it? Now just 4 minutes ago I showed you flashcards. So there is a Starrett nipper. You tell me, is that the same tool? But different jaws. I have been for years interested in the history of tools. So this is out of a Popular Science magazine, and about the early 50s, and that is when they changed the name from Plum Tools to Proto. But at this point it was still called the Plum Tool Company. Now why am I showing you that? Because at that IBM garage sale that I just showed you, here's a line wrench, but notice how it's called Proto here, but using those upside down triangles, which I really like. This needs a good cleaning up. And it belonged to Bob, who is long dead. He's taking a dirt nap. But on this side, again, it says manufactured by Plum Tool Company, Proto. But here's one that is much more recent, different size, irrelevant, and look at how they stamped it or forged it with that logo. Manufactured in USA, and then of course later they didn't use the plumb term at all. This is a more modern one. Maybe they still make the... I think Stanley owns Proto. I hope they didn't dumb it down too much. Please watch this video of mine when it becomes available, number 902, where I destroy 7 wrenches. Let me give you a little preview. In this very crude video of mine coming up, I show how I break these wrenches, and here's some samples, and they broke all in different places, and one of them did not break. It would not break, and you'll be shocked at the brand of it. And that was fun for me. It's a fun video. It is not scientific at all, but you know, in real life, I'm a weakling. I'm puny. I have never, ever actually broken a wrench using it, ever. I guess because I'm just not strong enough. Now here's how to put a perfect radius on the end of round stock. This is 3/16 round. That's a Severance 3/16, or should I say 3/32 radius cutting tool. There it is. Let's step over to the bench. Very recently, a valued viewer asked me, how do I put a nice radius on the end of stock? Well, in this case, this is 3/16, but the tool is available in many sizes, made by Severance, not Severance unlike Doc, just Severance. And there is the one that I just made on the lathe. It can be done on a drill press as well. Now, these are kind of costly. And in fact, I made over 10,000 radii with this back when I was in my natural prime, making the famous, yeah, it was famous, all right, Peterson Products micrometer teaching aid. So that's what it looks like. And notice the name on there, Doc Severance. And that's the size on there. Did you ever see these before? They're kind of obscure but readily available, probably often used on turret lathes. Now let me do it again on the drill press, even though it's kind of senseless. And now a radius on the drill press. That's it. On a personal note, I did a lot of things with my wife last summer. We went to Branson, and among other things, we went to the Sight and Sound Theater and watched Esther. It was just a wonderful presentation. If you're ever there, be sure and do that. And now I'll show you a quick picture of my wife and I standing in front of that beautiful theater. I went to 3 Cubs games last summer. Now, I'm not the biggest baseball fan, but it's fun to go with people, and we usually go on a bus. But anyway, we also went up to Milwaukee to a Brewers game. Cubs got slaughtered, but I had never been in that big beautiful stadium. They say it's the best in the major league, where the roof will close. And you know, it was a great time. It was open that day. It was such a beautiful day. And it can close in only 10 minutes. I thought it would take hours. But you may remember that when they built that stadium, the crane collapsed and 3 men were killed, and they were set back almost a year. A whole wall came down, and the roof and the crane, everything just came crumbling due to gravity, of course. So there are YouTube videos on that if you would want to see that catastrophe. A couple months ago, I went to Arnfest up in Chicago, but the day before, Palmer Moynihan, an old buddy of mine, visited here, and he stayed overnight, and he brought me a gift, 2 beautiful sawhorses. He had made up a whole bunch of them, so I've got a picture of me with him at Arnfest, standing in front of his little booth there in his truck. And now let's go out the garage real quickly. I want to show you how he made these, because they're mortise and tendon joints. He just did a beautiful job, so let's check that out. He's quite a woodworker. And you may remember years ago when he was at my meet and greet, he presented me with this beautiful hammer. I just don't have the nerve to actually start pounding with it because it's just so beautifully made with that joint. And I forgot what kind of wood that is, he told me. The handle is hickory. All right, let's go out and look at the sawhorses. Okay, there's Palmer's sawhorses, and they stack. And he said it only takes $6 each, or was it per pair? I think each to make these out of common wood that you can get at any one of the box stores. And Palmer signed it for me. So take a look at the joints here, or is it too dark? Very nicely fitted. Probably a lot more difficult to make than what you might think. And then even here, the legs are mortised into the top. Very clever design and very well executed. Thank you, Palmer. If you're down there in Fort Worth, well, I know you are, but you may not be watching. How'd you like those sawhorses? Well, also at the meet and greet, those two characters from Canada came down to see me. One's name is Pierre and the other is Phil. Very funny guys too. Spoke with a bit of a French accent, but they presented me with this beautiful hammer from Canada. So it's plastic on one end, brass on the other, and I do use this. You see that it's starting to get marred up. And speaking of my meet and greet, I'm going to show you right now, flash on the screen, the video that Pierre made, and it's on YouTube, so I'll just give you the title. You can search for it if you want to see what went on. Because, as a matter of fact, I didn't know that video was on there until 2 days ago. I have a video of my own, but this was more extensive. I was so busy I did not have time to film, but they did, so take a look at that video. I think you'll like it. 5 years old. On a sad note, my friend Dave Scully out east, known as Trainman 4602, died very recently at the age of 75. I really liked that guy. I never met him in person, but we did correspond. Fortunately, he has a great legacy of all of the machining that he did, and remember, he ran Mercer Locomotive Works, and he's got wonderful videos if you want to check them out. Also, his two children, who are adult children of course, talked about him in a short video. It's basically an obituary for him, so go ahead and watch that. I'll flash that on the screen as well. But stand by, I want to show a couple things that Dave made for me and I cherish dearly. Dave made this oil can for me, spill proof, presented in commemoration to tubalcain for his 14 million views. Well, now I got, I don't know how many views. I got a lot of them, a lot more than that. But that beautiful plate that he put on there, and I use this almost all the time because it doesn't spill. I have several different versions of this. And then a few months later, or a year later, I don't know, he gave me this. Also, Mercer Locomotive Works, Trenton, New Jersey. That's where he lives. And so here's miniature pipe thread tap and die set that he made up for me. And by miniature, I mean he starts, I mean the very smallest is 1/8 inch, and we got the tap and the die in here, and then there's the 5/32, 3/16, and again these are all pipe threads. A lot of these you cannot buy locally, you have to buy them from a model maker or something like that. So in a mahogany case, beautifully executed, nice joinery. The man was a true craftsman. Thank you, Dave. We'll remember you forever. My friend Tim Rosenthal gave me another gift here, and it's for my 80th birthday. That's a couple months ago. So it's another rose index, Now this is the aluminum one. There's the patent number and all of the beautiful ingredients. This is the hobbyist version, because he makes other versions that are not for the hobbyist. Let me see what we got here. For instance, this one is made of steel. The hobbyist is aluminum. And this is a new version of it. So on the back side, and I've used these in videos, if you're not sure what they are, that it has the little protractor graduations on the back side. So thank you very much for thinking about me and giving these to me. Also in the larger size, this one is made out of steel, one of his earlier ones, because the engraving became much better after he bought the equipment or hires I done, I'm not sure. But again, it's called the Rose Index because his name is Rosenthal, and the big aluminum on here, which again is the hobby version, and it's cheaper than the steel ones, and it has the protractor on it as well. So thanks again, Tim, and here is his business card if anyone is interested. He's up in Wisconsin, and they're made in the USA. One of my videos would not be complete without a postal rant, and I've already talked about this one. And this package was torn open and even put in a separate bag. I don't know how much was lost, rewrapped by the post office. And some of that, I have to admit, is due to poor packaging. But let me tell you something that happened here very recently. We have a young couple that lives next door to us. They just had a baby in August, so we sent them a birthday card, not a birthday, a baby card along with a $50 check, and they live 100 feet from here. Well, we didn't get a thank you. You know, and some young people do not do that anymore. So my wife just asked him, the man, the boy, I had him in class, good people, did you get our card and our check? Because we noticed that it has not been cashed. And he said, no, we didn't get anything. So my wife, and that was 2 months ago, got another card, wrote another check, and took it over there in person, all 100 feet of it. So they truly did get it. I'm still surprised at how many people tell me that, no, we never had anything lost or broken or anything like that. So that shocks me because I don't believe in conspiracies, but it almost seems like there's a conspiracy against me. Bob Patton has been a big supporter of my channel, and to me, thank you, Bob. So in this package, there are just a lot of little novelty items and neat little gifts. I'm not going to open everything, but for instance, there's a little ratchet wrench in there, and there's a monocular. I don't know what that is. I'm not going to take the time to. Some of this stuff is still sealed. I don't know what it is. I have to go through it a little bit more detail. There's a sewing kit, just in case when my wife gets grounded, she can do some of the mending. And he sent several of these. Are really neat because you got all three different configurations here on the end of a USB, so you don't need 3 cables. I really like that. I've been using that. And then the other box, some more cables. Here is a little meter by the meter. Haven't really tried it yet. A flashlight, I can always use those. Power. I don't know. I'm not going to take the time to open it all. Ah, another flashlight. Probably needs to be charged. Yeah, some of those need to be charged. And so on. But anyway, thank you, Mr. Patton. And there's some real little drills in there, so there's some real neat stuff. Another flashlight. More cords. Thank you, Bob Patton. Well, that concludes This and That number 77. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you watched the whole thing, or parts of it anyway. And I'll see you in a future video, probably tomorrow. So long for now.